Report: Activision canceled a Crash Bandicoot Spyro crossover game. Activision canned Crash Bandicoot 5 to focus on multiplayer and live service games.
Oh.
I bet it worked out like gangbusters. A new report claims that Crash Bandicoot 5 was greenlit by Activision, but was then cancelled very early in development due to Crash 4 selling poorly and the publishers wanting to focus more on the live service titles like Call of Duty Warzone. Interestingly, this game would have seen the Wumpa fruit loving marsupial crossover with another platforming mascot, Spyro the Dragon. According to a new report from gaming journalist and historian Liam Robertson, formerly Activision owned studio Toys for Bob began working on a multiplayer Crash Bandicoot game after it had wrapped up on the Spyro Reignited trilogy. But then the company took some of that work and began developing 2020's Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. This game was well liked by fans and critics, and Toys for Bob began planning a follow up. This new game, known internally as Crash Bandicoot 5, was planned to be a direct sequel to Crash 4 and would be a single player 3D platformer like previous entries in the long running franchise. Robertson's video includes concept art and possible story ideas for this never finished Crash sequel. At one point, the developers were planning to include Spyro in the sequel, with the report claiming that the two would have worked together to save their respective universes from a giant cataclysmic event. Both characters would be playable, and players would even see both characters' universes in this multiverse pitch. Kotaku has reached out to Activision about the report. According to the report, Toys for Bob only worked on Crash 5 for around 3 to 4 months and largely focused on concept art and early environments. In the winter of 2020, Activision canceled Crash 5, reportedly due to Crash 4's low sales and the publisher wanting to focus on online games over single player titles. Toys for Bob then worked on Crash Team Rumble, a short lived and not very popular online game that you probably forgot even launched. Thankfully, Toys for Bob was able to survive all this. In February, the company announced that it was going independent and would work alongside Activision owner Microsoft on a new project. It's now rumored that Toys for Bob is working on a new Spyro game. So, would you have liked to seen a Spyro Crash Bandicoot uh, crossover?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I made a meme of this back many years ago, where Goku and Jiren were doing a fist action, where they're bumping like that bumper thing you do with your fist and all, and then it says Crash fans, Spyro fans, and when they meet each other at the middle, it will say love number two. Meaning that Crash Bandicoot 2 and Spyro Dragon 2 were the best old platform games of its time, and it's fun. It was funny at first, in my opinion. But now it's like, for today's world, you probably could catch some of the older games to be taking part in buying the crossover game. I'm not sure about the younger guys, younger gamers, because they never experienced the first three Crash games or the first three Spyro games, unless they bought the trilogy back in 2018, 2019, respectively, of course. So it's kind of like I only got the Insane trilogy back in 2020, 2021, and I'm stuck at the castle level of the Crash Bandicoot 1 game. So I didn't play Crash Bandicoot 1 as much as far as like the further levels into the game, only like the first 3, 4, 5 levels every single time with my friends. Because we get stuck after a while when we reach to the Papu Papu as the boss battle, and then sometimes we defeat him, whatever. And I finally get to defeat Pinster in recent memory with Crash Bandicoot 1 of the Insane trilogy. So I guess you say I'm more of a Crash Bandicoot fan, just by how much I talk about Crash. But if they want the crossover together, it will bring the forces of fans of Spyro and fans of Crash together for just a moment and buy each other's respective copies of the regular trilogy games. I wish they would find some way to fix that the Spyro trilogy one, where they only put one game on the disc and you got down the other two. That's stupid right there. I hate when they did that. And hope they fix that matter by now, whereas they get all three Spyro games like that. Insane trilogy was Crash. Doesn't make any sense. I'd say watch it have everyone go online and stuff for the sake of for more money, more profit, stuff like that. But at the same time, you got to worry about game preservation, also longevity and long-term profiting of your fans, your loyal gamers of your respective IPs. Because games like Resident Evil, games like Spyro, games like Crash Bandicoot, games like Siphon Filter at one point. These were games back 25, 30 years ago that started off, and now all of a sudden some of them were like died down a bit. Others were revitalized like Crash and Spyro, and it's great. It's the greatest thing ever that they did for the newer generation of gamers. But now it's like, not crossover. It's kind of like, yeah, let's take that risk. Let's do it. I want to see that happen in the future. Even if it takes a few more years, so be it. So,
Okay. Well, on what Doctor Games 101 doesn't know is they actually did do a crossover on Game Boy Advance.
oh, yeah. Oh, fuck
Um, Crash, what was it? Crash Purple, Ripto's Rampage, and Spyro Orange, the Cortex Conspiracy. Um,
I guess I want to see on the AAA on console games, something like that, at least.
yeah, because these games were exclusive to Game Boy Advance, and they were kind of like the levels that you had to complete were like party games, not what you would expect from a Spyro or a Crash Bandicoot game on PlayStation. But it still featured Spyro, still featured Crash Bandicoot working together. Um, for people who never played it, I played Spyro Orange, um, and basically it was where Crash and Spyro think the other one's evil. The first boss fight is with each other. Then they realize they're both fighting for the same thing. So in the game it turns out Doctor Neo, Cortex, and Ripto have teamed up. So Spyro and Crash are like, well, let's do the one thing they never expected. Let's team up to stop them. And basically, you could play, which depending on which game you played, you could play as the whoever it was, either Crash Orange or Spyro Purple, um, or Crash Purple, Spyro Orange. Excuse me, I'm getting the colors mixed up.
Right.
And you could and whoever whoever was in your game's title you played as, and you could get the other game to because there were party games that you could only access if you had both games. So it was like yeah, so but then again, that like I said, that was a party game. A lot so it's not what people were expecting, obviously. But I think based on the idea, the way if it was actual levels instead of mini games, maybe it would work. You know, I would have loved to see it. Crash and Spyro team up again. Um, maybe we'll see it down the road. But yeah, it just sucks that we could have gotten something that would have been different, and instead we had to get another online game that another online shooter,
Something of that sort, yeah.
and
And,
it's just like I mean, but then again, also I think one thing to be fair, we're never gonna see the same quality again of no matter how many Crash Bandicoot games they make, of the original Crash 3 games from Crash Bandicoot. I'm talking about the PlayStation, the three released on original PlayStation. Same goes for Spyro the Dragon. I don't think you're going to match anything of either Spyro Dragon Ripto's Rampage, or Ripto the Ripto's I think Rampage, and then Spyro Year of the Dragon. I don't think you're going to reach anything like that, even if you remake the games like the Insane Trilogy and the Reignited Trilogy. So, at the same time, maybe we're hoping for something that we just can't get anymore.
oh, yeah. And, but I say this stuff about Crash and Spyro. Now, I will admit this. I've only played the demo version of the first Spyro the Dragon on the demo disc. I still have to this day on my desk next to me. And, it's been a blessing. I still have these old materials to play every whenever I want to. But it is what it is. I stuck with the other side of the fence, and that was Crash because of the timing. Because obviously, you got to respect your time as a gamer to see what you want to dedicate towards. I think we should talk more about that in our next podcast about why in today's world the current day not developers, but the current day publishers, the current day shareholders of these gaming companies don't respect our time as gamers, whether you're young or old. Because we all got to go to school, we all got to do work and stuff like that, or do a mixture of like other project stuff, other than just gaming. So and that's what's going on now. Now it's like they're not respecting our time, or it's like we want to see the crossover after all these after 25 years of Crash and Spyro. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So while it would be nice to see this crossover, unfortunately, we didn't get it on a triplet on home console. Um, Maybe we'll get it in the future, but I think we are kind of setting ourselves up for disappointment if we're expecting something of the first three from either franchise,
yeah,
which is a shame. But um,
it's going to take a lot of work though for not rebuild, but to create a decent crossover of Crash and Spyro. And they already had it and set it not set in stone, but they had a build up of it too. So all you gotta do is finish it. Have Naughty Dog work with the respective holders of these IPs to just start to make sure that these developers stay in contact with each other and like, okay, here's what we're gonna do in the next 10, 15 years from now. Like they were Psychonauts. And I was expecting because I heard Psychonauts was a good game on Xbox and PlayStation 2 and all, or respective consoles at the time. I heard of it. I heard these games when I was 17, 18 years old of Psychonauts, and I was like, I wish I had the money, but I couldn't afford to, and I missed out on it after to see it in its actual release time and all. Now, for the last 2 or 3 years, I did recordings of it on my YouTube, and it's a great experience. Psychonauts all about psychological, tactical, understanding of the world and all, and it's just a great thing. And all of a sudden, Tim Burton, I think his name is, who's the creator of Psychonauts, or the founder, or at least take part in the directing these games that he's been under guys for over the decade, about 25, 30 years now. I'm sure with Beetlejuice, I'm not sure, but definitely with with Psychonauts. I forgot if that's the name, Tim Burton, if I remember correctly. And he never thought about creating another sequel until fans later on, or us, in our age group, kept asking for decades now. Hey, it's almost a decade and a half now of Psychonauts 2, which it was on the Game Pass last time I checked. So it was like, wow, another feature event, a feature game. So yeah, you gotta keep at it. Put the pressure on these developers and the founders of these IPs to just keep at it if they can. Because obviously these guys are greatest minds. Miyamoto of Zelda and Mario and stuff like that. Like these guys and Hideo Kojima of Metal Gear Solid. Like these guys are one of the greatest masterminds of making games and all. It's great. It's a blessing right now. We're in this era right now to see all this stuff happening, the crossovers and stuff. So that's all I gotta
yeah,
say.
yeah. So I mean, uh, maybe yeah. So, but the thing is, it's kind of like modern day. The problem I had with the Crash trilogy and the Spyro trilogy, it's like modern day problems were making it into these collections. How
Yeah,
does modern day problems make it into these games when these games were done
yeah.
and you just had to bring them over? You know, you had to play test them. You had to, I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't work to do it. I'm just saying if these collections are experiencing the same problems that other modern games are, I'm not looking at it like a collection of the games that I used to enjoy playing. And to be honest, I didn't play Crash Bandicoot or Spyro the Dragon until I was much older. Um, I was an adult by the time I had Crash Bandicoot or Spyro the Dragon. Like Dr. Games 101, the only experience I had of Spyro the Dragon was a demo of the first game.
Actually, I did play the first three, or at least Crash Bandicoot 3 when I was 12 years old. So I played
Okay.
it when I was a preteen, the Crash side of things. So
Yeah, but I didn't experience Crash Bandicoot till I was older, at least until I had my PS3.
okay,
And Spyro, the only experience I had growing up was the PlayStation demo disc when the PlayStation first came out.
oh yeah,
Because in the first Spyro, in the demo I had, um, you could play like the first few areas, but when you had to go to the balloons to get to another world, the guy who did the balloon ride in the original game, you have to rescue 10 dragons before he'll take you to the second world. In the demo, the guy who does the balloon ride goes, the other worlds are very exciting. I'll take you there in September. Obviously, the game was slated for a September release when the demo was made. Um, so but that's the only experience I had growing up, and then I got to experience these games much later. And while Crash Bandicoot is as hard as you, it's while it's difficult as um, while it's very difficult, makes you want to pull your hair out. It's still fun. It's still a game I'll go back to,
Yeah.
which is more than I could say for plenty of the other shovelware coming out in modern days.